So it's good afternoon. We are now reaching the town of Portree. It's situated on the east side of the sky, overlooking a sheltered bay, the capital of the island. Portree is surrounded by hills, Ben Tianavik to the south, Suid Fin or Fingal Seat to the west, both almost 400 odd feet or sorry meters height. Ben Shroud much lower to the north. Further north, alongside to Staffin, is the Old Man of Store, a very popular walkway. Across the bay to the east, island of Rase, which is also a very distinctive conical hill. Portree is just maybe around 200 years old, was created as a fishing village at the beginning of the 19th century by the then Lord MacDonald. The name Portree or Port R-I-G-H, Portrick, King's Port in Gaelic, is popularly thought to derive from a visit by King James of Scotland in 1540, but the area around the harbour was called as Portree or Portray long before the arrival of the king. Its name really comes from the Gaelic for port on the slope. The town Portree, situated on the east side of Skye, overlooking the sheltered bay, is the capital of the island. So, what is Portree? So, it's a fishing village, must visit place, and maybe not much shops are there, but you get enough places to eat. So we had been to one of the shops where we had a latte and something to munch, but we saw some two odd Indian restaurants also there. So Portree has a harbour fringed by cliff with a pier designed by Thomas Telford. So what are the attractions here? One is the Arrow Centre, now known as the Isle of Skye Candle Company, and added to that there is a Atlas Arts, a Creative Scotland regularly funded organization. So people used to come here. That must be around 900,000 people will be there. They still speak Scottish Gaelic. So the total population must be around 2000 plus. Portree is connected to the Skye Bridge by the A87 road, which then leads to northward of Uwig. A855 road also leads north out of town. So the last time when we were coming, it was A82 road, and that's not much said about Portree, but you need to enjoy that climate, enjoy the scenes. Let's enjoy. On the way to, we are going to Isle of Skye, on the way to Kiltrock.
down to the right a little bit. Or some of you went down the steps. Up here to the right. Way around here. Straight up the hill there, turn right. That's where that white car is. Take the right there.
Taste of it.
Buildings down at the port, down to the sea level, where some of you went for your takeaway fish and chips. Similar. Ballamore's down south in Mull. In Tobermory. So the reason that the houses are coloured like that is traditional, going back in time. In the old days when the fishermen were going out, they didn't have any modern navigation aids. So if they had brightly coloured houses down near the port, it helped them see the port from a distance, especially in the fog and the mist. That's why they're so gaily coloured. It would only work to a certain extent, but every little helps back then when fishing was one of the most dangerous activities on earth. So just head straight up and it'll wade round and about. Yeah, you just keep working your way up there. Up that way, up that way. So we're basically heading north now up what we call the Trotternish Peninsula. It's one of the main parts of the island of Skye up north. Yeah, they're not as bad as they used to be, but there are a few. So the main clan people that used to live in this area around the capital, Portree, were the Nicholson clan. Nicholsons, yeah. That's why the school's called the Nicholson Institute. From the old days. All the way up, just turn a bit, just keep going. As we go up here, we'll gradually come out of the north side of the town, get up onto some higher ground, and then we'll eventually start seeing across to the Scottish mainland on the right hand side, across the ocean. A couple of more islands that we'll see a bit of on the way up. Music by sheep. The natural trees of not regrowing. So as we go up this peninsula, we're going to come across some big rock formations. Before we come to Kilt Rock, there's going to be the big giant statue rock, the Old Man of Storr up on the skyline. Some of you in the front of the coach might be able to see it. We'll all see it as we drive past it. It's all volcanic rock, just a bit like the... some of this road up here is single track really, so it has these little triangular white signs at the side of the road. Was a little bit of a wider part where people pull in to let someone else pass. So the whole idea is that people take turns to stop to let others pass the other way. If someone stops for you, you're meant to give them a little acknowledgement. Just keep going. Stop there. No, don't worry, I know this road like that. You have to get through it. Acknowledging people, all they do is raise one little finger like that, and that's it. You just get one finger, not a hand. So this gaily coloured van there is Wild Tours. I know the chap who owns that corner. It's quite an experience. Releasing too much carbon into the atmosphere. But these were huge industrial, like big harvesters, taking mass amounts of peat. Yeah, well, they're bringing the snow right down. You can still get some. It's mainly for gardens. People would use peat in their gardens to provide acid for the pH of the soil. It's below 7 in the pH series. Yeah, peat is below 7 in the pH series. Rhododendrons like acid soil. So we're going to go all the way up that way. So as we go along here, there's a small lake, a small loch. A small loch in Scotland we call a loughin. That's AN on the end, it just means it's a small lake. And they have little boats on this water here for trout fishing. Not for salmon, but for moorland trout. So they use a fly with a hook to catch the fish. Yeah, as a bait. So you can see the guys. You can see the guys fishing there. It's for fly fishing. So they do the fly tying. Yeah. It's fresh water, it's not seawater, it's too high up to be near the sea. It's a couple of 100 feet above sea level, that bit. As we drive up the road further up, we will start to see the actual part of the Atlantic Ocean. It's the area where most of the submarines do their secret testing. They deliberately do it between the Isle of Skye and the mainland, so the Russians can't observe what they're doing very easily. Right now there are Russian submarines based off the west coast of Scotland. And have been for years. They didn't used to be there, but Putin put them back again. He also flies his military aircraft right to the edge of our airspace about once a week, and they escort them away from Area Flossymouth about once a week with jet fighters. Yeah. It's been going on for years, for 20 odd years. Well, the Russians stopped doing it. For years, they didn't do it, but Putin brought it back. They just played cat and mouse. If they flew over the border, they'd shoot them down. Well, they give them a warning. No, they give them a warning if they didn't turn back, they'd shoot them. No, but the Eurofighters. Escorted by our jet fighters. Yeah. Most of you will gradually see the big rock pinnacle of the Old Manor Store up ahead. You can't see it in the back of the coach, you will see it as we drive round. It's quite a high rock pinnacle, it's at least 135 feet high. It's overhanging all the way around the base. And it was first climbed in the 1950s by one of the very best English climbers, Don Willans. And at the time, he was one of the very best climbers on earth, and probably in the top 5 or 6 in the whole world. And he went on to do the hardest climbing the Himalayas ever done. The first ascent of the south face of Annapurna was the hardest ever Himalayan ascent in 1970. There used to be 2 pinnacles up there, but one has collapsed over the centuries. And there's an old folk tale about why the 2 of them were there. There were originally 2 giants back in the ages ago, and they asked the devil if they could be together forever. And the devil said, well, if you walk up to the store, which is the name of the big cliff at the back, I'll grant you the door. And there the devil turned them to stone. And that was them together forever in stone. Well, it's a fate. One of the pinnacles has collapsed. That's right, well, it was filmed partly up here, yeah, further north from where we're going. So you see there's a massive amount of people stop here every day if the weather's good, and a lot of them walk right up to the store to have a look closely. It's quite an arduous little walk up there. It'll take you anything up to an hour to an hour and a half maybe, depending how fast you walk. No, we're going to Kilrock. So as we go along here, we're starting to see there's a little bit of cloud, but the Atlantic Ocean to the right hand side as we go along. It's pretty deep water in there, and that's why it's pretty ideal for the submarines to operate without being seen on the surface. A few years ago, I think it was just over 10 years ago, one of the captains of the nuclear submarines made some mistake with their navigation. This peninsula that heads up north in Skye is the largest single peninsula on the island, and it's called Trotternish. Trotternish. That's just sheep. It's a sheep walking around the side there. The grass creek. Series of rocky cliffs that you've seen already continue all the way up to the north of this part of Skye. Right up in the very far north of Trotternish, north of the little town of Stafford, is a graveyard with a couple of famous people in it. Alright? So his grave is a modern grave, and it's only 20 metres from Flora MacDonald's grave, who's the most famous one. No, can't be able to see it forever. It's very difficult to get. You need a smaller view. It's in a place called the Museum of Light. Obviously we're getting a bit of grey sky, but that's pretty normal in Skye. We've been lucky so far. In the old days that's why they drank so much, because they used to get so much rain. Grey skies, depressing. Well, but it's just the fact that they're the Atlantic, it's all the rain. Called the Widows of Culloden, the biggest battle that was ever fought on British soil in recent history, next to Inverness, straight on them. What they call the Croft little small farm that I mentioned earlier, and croft sizes vary from as little as 2 acres up to maybe as much as 40 acres, and they're generally handed down through a family line usually, and they're now protected because there was an act of parliament for all the bad times of the exploitation and the clearances in the late 1800s. So people who own a small bit of land, a little croft in the Highlands and Islands, are protected, so they can't be exploited. Yeah, well, they started fighting in the 80s and then sort of identified it there. See how open the landscape is here. There would have been more trees hundreds of years ago, but the sheep have grazed it out, and they tend to stop trees naturally regrowing. And there are big issues about sheep farming now in Britain, particularly in the Highlands and in Wales, because they no longer have the European Union subsidy for farming, and they're waiting for a proper replacement by the London government. And if it isn't a good enough subsidy, probably really all the sheep will disappear very quickly. Go back to the way it was before.